Hello, and welcome to this episode of the Total Podcast with me, your host, Phil Scott. Today, my special guest is a children's book author. Her name is Isabel Noboa. So, Isabel, without further ado, thank you so very much for being on the show today. I'm honored to have you on, and thank you for doing the show. It was kind of funny because I came across your Instagram feed and I was like, wow, this looks like such an awesome book. And you have such a bubbly personality. So I figured, wow, you are just like one of the perfect people to have on my show. So, Isabel, thank you so very much for agreeing to do the show today.
Thank you so much for that sweet compliment, and thank you for having me. Funny story, I actually go by Isabel C. Noboa because me and my little sister have the same name, so I had to put the C in there.
Wow. Okay. So,
Yes.
so Isabel C. Noboa.
She's Isabel M. Noboa, and I'm Isabel C. Noboa. It's a long story,
And that's
but
and
yeah.
that's actually two on your book cover for your book.
Yep.
So I need to
Yep.
always keep that in mind. It's Isabel C. Noboa.
There you go.
All right.
Yeah, I'm so happy to be here. It was so exciting.
Thank you, Isabel. Thank you very much. So first of all, if you would tell us a little bit about your background, where you grew up, your childhood, where you went to school, and just tell us about your background, first
Yeah,
of all.
I was born in the Dominican Republic. So that shaped a lot of my personality and things like that. I was raised in the Bronx, so that's another layer of personality. I've lived upstate. That was nice. And I've lived in Brooklyn for like 10 years now. I went to school. I got my master's in psychology. It's sitting in the closet. I don't look at it. I don't use it. um, and for years, I worked as a project manager in the construction fields. But I always knew that I wanted to write a book. Like I always knew, I was like, okay, I knew that I wanted to do something creative. And it's funny. I'm very spiritual, so I would see signs of like the universe telling me you should be doing something creative. Like every guy I attracted was a creative. And I didn't put two and two together. And, like I was always at peace when I was creating things. And I was like, okay, I really want to write a children's book. I love children, just like it. I love children and I want to write a children's book. Then quarantine happened, so I had a lot of free time. So I googled. I'm like, okay, like how do you do this? Like, what's the first thing? First thing, you write your manuscript, and I thought that was it. I wrote it, got it edited. I'm like, cool, let's get the illustrator. Found her on Fiverr. Her name is Bojana Stojanovic. She lives in Serbia. She is incredible. Yes, I found her, and we worked together. Then came the months of research. Finding out what ISBN numbers are and library numbers and this number and that and copyright and format and bleeds. I was like, what the hell's a bleed? Like, and then you think you have it all right. And then, you submit to Ingram Spark, which is a whole nother show. And then you're like, oh, okay, so this wasn't right. And I need to hire someone to fix it. Okay, great. All right. No problem. And then, so like I worked on it for like 2 years, right? And then by the time that I was ready to publish it, I looked at my manuscript and I'm like, I hate this. I was like, I'm not the same person I was when I wrote it. So I had to, redo it. Great, got it done, perfect. So I published in January of this year.
Right.
And then I had to republish in like April or May because I had to fix certain things internally in the metadata, which is another thing that they don't teach you because Ingram Sparks does not care, and I'm sorry, but they don't care. But I had to fix some things, and then I finally got it just the way I wanted. And yeah, so after I fixed it, it was just a matter of like, while Ingram Sparks distribution is great, I also took it upon myself to email stores and call them and say like, hey, I would love to get my book in your store. I would love to do events. So that was a big part of it. So yeah, and here we are. And I'm working as like in business. So you would never think that like business or project manager and like children's book, but here I am.
Well, let's go back for just a minute to the writing of the book. That's just the idea. So tell me how your younger years kind of molded you to say, hey, you know what? I want to write a book. I would like to do that
Yes.
someday. Were you a reader a lot as a child? Did you read a lot of books as a child? And do you still read a lot? And how did that kind of mold and shape how you wanted and when you decided to write a book?
Yeah, so I was definitely a reader when I was younger, but more importantly, I don't know if this is a word, a disassociator. So I would just daydream all day. Like I was always in another world. You could be talking to me and I would be like somewhere else. So I was always like, thinking about like fantasies and things like that. I do still read, not as much. Nowadays, I'm more of a book hoarder.
Right.
I want to get back into reading. But yeah, like, so I was always in another world, and that kind of definitely shaped my imagination. I always had an imagination, and I always knew that I wanted to write. I was always a good writer, and even before I wrote my book, I was always writing poems, and because it was a good way to like release certain things. But yeah, so I always knew I wanted to write a book. I love kids. I Even when I was younger, I've always known I wanted to be a mom. I love kids. I would be in Toys R Us and I would like walk to the baby aisle when I was a kid. I'm like, oh, that's so cute. So I always had that in me. So yeah, the perfect combination happened and free time happens, and I was finally able to do it. I had nothing else to do.
Do you feel like your time growing up in the Dominican Republic kind of shaped how you are as a person now?
So I lived in Dominican Republic for the first 3 years of my life.
Mhm.
Um, I lived with my mom, and then I came here and I lived with my dad and my stepmom, and my family. But it definitely played a part because I knew that I always wanted like a very safe relationship with my child
Right.
because I didn't have that with my parents. So that definitely played in. So I dote on the people I care about a lot because I feel like it's kind of a way for me to heal my childhood or heal certain things.
Right.
For example, the book is about me and my two nieces, my sister's children. I love those girls. Like those are my babies. So, imagine when I have my own kids. Right. So through them, I feel like I heal a lot of my childhood or a lot of like things that still bother me because I do pour into them and I do dote on them and I do have like a very secure relationship with them. So I would say like certain things that I witnessed or that have happened to me when I was younger definitely helped me want to break the cycle and do it right and just things like that.
Well, I will tell you from my own personal experience too. I mean, things that happened to you in your childhood. I mean, you find out when you, especially when you work with kids or when you spend time with kids, how resilient kids are. I
Hmm.
mean, kids can be very resilient. And so having that core just of me not wanting to be like my own dad, me wanting to be a better person than my dad was, then that just kind of shaped and molded me as a person. Like, oh, I always want to do better, want to do
Yeah,
better than he did.
absolutely.
And so you have this beautiful platform that is your book,
Oh.
and it's based on your interactions with your nieces. And
Hmm.
so tell us how the book developed in terms of, okay, what am I going to write about and how am I going to make this into a story?
So even though the book is completely fantastical, it's about me and my nieces using magical markers to draw these landscapes and go into them. It's completely obviously fiction, but it's not so far from the truth. When I'm with my nieces, I'm always thinking of things to do. I'm always like, oh, let's bake these things, or let's do this arts and crafts, or let's do this, let's do that. And my sister's always like, what else? What else? So I'm always kind of like, let's try, new things. So it's not so far off that I wanna do things with my nieces, but I don't know where the idea came to me for the magical markers. It just came to me and I ran with it. And then I was
Mhm.
like, okay, let's do three different landscapes. And yeah, my niece loves it, by the way. She's like, oh my God, thank you so much for writing a book about me.
Wow,
Yeah.
that is very cool. That's very cool that you do that. Now, also, I'd like to know how long did it take for the illustrator to do the illustrations for the book? Because they're, like I said, I'm just looking at the cover. It's beautiful. How long did it take her to get the illustrations done for the book?
I believe it was about 4 or 5 months or something like that. Yeah. Because it was, it's 32 pages and
Mhm,
she also did the cover. And then she also did like what's it like an about me page that I asked her to do. And
mhm.
she did an adventure page that I asked her to do. So yeah, it took her a little bit. But which is understandable. I'm like, take as many times as you need. And then working with me, I'm like, oh, that's really cute. Let's try a different color, yeah, it took her a few months.
Now you have some things that go along with the book, correct?
Yes, I do. So I have the hardcover and the paperback. And then I have these journals that I made recently, and it's just the three landscapes of so they're journals and they're available on Amazon and on my website and I also give them for free when when someone buys a hardcover.
Hmm.
I have stickers that I also hand out and bookmarks. The bookmarks were cool because, I include them with the order, but I also drop them off at coffee shops and things like that, so people can kind of pick them up. And
Uh-huh.
then I also have like some puzzles, but those are not for sale. Those are more like for like readings. And then I have activity pages that I had done. And I think that's the whole thing. Oh, and we're working on getting some custom pencils. And my sister's helping me make some custom tote bags. So when people buy from directly from my website, which is please, if you are supporting any author, please buy directly from their website because Amazon takes a big chunk of
Wow.
the yeah. So if you buy directly from my website, I want to make it so that I send you a nice little tote, the hardcover, a journal, stickers, and a custom pencil and bookmarks, the whole thing. Package it up really cute. So yeah, so I think that's everything that I have.
And what is your website?
It's ramblingpress.co.
Ramblingpress.co.
Mm-hmm.
Thank you. Now, also, I wanted to know what is the age range, the target age range for your readers of your book?
So it's 2 to 8. And it's definitely younger than 2. I had a reading today. They were younger than 2, and they were not. They cared about the stickers. They were like it was hard to keep their focus for the story. But yes, 2 to 8 for sure.
Now, how often, now that you mention it, how often have you been able to go on readings and to read your book and share your book with kids? And what's been the reaction from them?
So I think I've done 5 or 6 readings in total. The kids love it. They're they also mostly like a lot of the activities that happen. I have one coming up on Wednesday, which I'm very excited about because it's local. I'm trying to think. Yeah, so the kids like it, but more they like the stickers. so,
Now,
so that's a good investment.
now, to me, it seems like it would be a pretty cool idea if you were able to go to elementary schools and
Yes,
read to kids too.
that's on my list. I was supposed to do that today to look up schools, and then I was like, I'm too tired. It's not happening. But yeah, so that and libraries.
Yes,
Those are my next ones. Yes, for sure.
yes, that's awesome. Wow. One last thing that I wanted to ask you before you go, well, a couple of things. So first of all, is it going to be a series of books? Are you going to write more with L and M and future books? And two, what do you see yourself doing more as an author down the road?
Yes, I am definitely going to make it a series. And let me just say this: when an author publishes their book, do not ask them when's the next one coming out because we are still reeling from this one. We are traumatized. Do you know how hard we work? Everyone asks me, everyone's like, so when's the next one? I'm like, I don't know. When's your next kid? Leave me alone. Just let me breathe. I'm still raising this kid. Yeah, I definitely want to make it a series. And my niece is always like, well, let's do this, let's do that. And, let's
Oh,
include mom next time. So, yeah, I do want to make it a series. And who knows, maybe make it a show. That would be very cool.
yeah.
I also want, again, I write poetry, like, but not for kids. Not for kids. I definitely want to release a poetry book either this year or next year. And also, I would like to release like maybe like a manual or like a short something that kind of guides self-published authors through the process, because again, I spent months researching. So I would like to, put something together and, maybe sell it for a few bucks on Amazon. And then, if anyone needs it, it's there.
That's awesome. Well, thank you, Isabel, so
Thank
very,
you.
very much for doing the podcast today. I truly appreciate it.
Thank you so much for having me.
You're welcome. So the book title is The Marvelous Misadventures of L and M. And also I want to just put out there, because I was looking this up earlier, but your book is out there in a lot of places. I found it on Walmart.com. I found it on Amazon. It's a lot, Target. So it's out there. So that's awesome that it's available at so many different places. So that's terrific.
Thank you. Yeah, thank you so much.
Oh, and where can listeners find you on social media?
Yeah, so you can definitely check out my Instagram. I post little cute pictures of me and my nieces, always hiding their face, get their privacy. And it's cool because I like to post the pictures of me and my nieces, and then I like to post a similar picture from the book, to kind of like show you. It's _marvelous misadventures, and you just follow me. We'll go on misadventures together. And yeah.
Thank you. That's terrific. Thank you. Thank you. Well, again, thank you so much, Isabel C. Noboa.
Thank you so much. Thank you so much, Bill.
You're welcome. Thank you so much for doing the podcast today. I truly, again, appreciate it. And on such short notice too. So thank you.
And no, absolutely. I was like, okay, I'm pretty, the weekdays are horrible for me. I'm like, let me try to get this in this weekend. But yes, of course.
Thank you. Well, with that, everyone, that is the end of this episode of the Total Podcast with me, your host, Phil Scott. Everyone stay safe, be careful out there, take care of one another, and we will talk again soon.